Welcome to Soccer Talk, a podcast about soccer, mostly in Iowa, presented by Kick It Forward. Kick It Forward is a positive disruptor to the Iowa soccer community.
Thanks to our sponsors, Scott Insurance Services and Michael Keener, Attorney at Law. You need legal help, you need insurance help, those are the two to contact.
That's right. Welcome to the show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. I'm Ben Brackett with my good buddy and co-host Blake Sievers. We are physically distant, but socially quite close. We've been chatting on the Zoom like all day today, haven't we?
It's been a busy day for the pod, Ben.
I love it. What's going on, man? How are you tonight?
I'm good. Every day that ends in Y now is becoming a challenge, so.
You're telling me. Yesterday and today.
Yeah, today.
Fortunately, tomorrow is not a challenge.
I hope not.
So, keeping the Legend series hot right now, digging deep into the archives a little bit as far as, maybe the player archives, if you will. He did not like it when I mentioned his age, but we're just going to do it straight out of the gate.
Go ahead, Ben. Tell everybody how old he is.
Actually, I don't even know, but
well, he was a 1989 graduate of high school. So he's up there.
So you do the math. Yeah, that puts him. Man, that must have. Okay, anyway, God, he is old, isn't he?
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian, just messing with you. So we had a really cool opportunity to chat with Iowa soccer legend Brian Zwaschka. Brian grew up in Fort Dodge in West Des Moines, played high school soccer at Dowling, had an interesting sort of post-high school career that did include a little stint at Grand View, playing overseas a little bit, and then, ultimately ended up with him back in Des Moines, playing with the Menace and playing kind of, pro soccer or whatever we want to call it back in the day. I mean, I guess it was a little bit of both. And then, now he's just full-fledged as a coach, and he's really kind of gone his route.
Yeah, and we talked to him for a while before the pod, after the pod. We really didn't dive into a lot of, I think it was pretty cool. The guy coach was an assistant at Texas Tech in the Big 12, assistant at Cal in the Pac-12. Now is the head coach of Fresno State. I think there's rumors circulating around the internet. He coached Alex Morgan at one point. We really didn't get into all that, which
we didn't even talk about that.
We didn't. And the other part we didn't we know him, or I at least know him or have heard of him as Z, right? Everybody called him Z, and I didn't really know how to say his, do we call him Brian? Do we call him Z? Which I don't know.
Yeah, no, I guess this all kind of points back to just how generous he was with his time, and he says he remembers us. I think that's really nice of him to say so. But maybe he does, and regardless, if he does, that just shows what kind a great person he is. And also just you could tell he's straight up Iowan, right? Deep down, that's his deal.
Rudd's super generous with, like you said, with his time. But then you want to talk about a tactician of the game. I think that guy, and we get into it pretty deep. You and him were just, your eyes were just had hearts in them there for a little while, talking about the old Italian teams, the old Dutch teams.
All right. Well, let's just chat with him then. You can stop talking smack. So, yeah, let's just jump into it. Brian Zwaschka. All right. Welcome, Brian Zwaschka, to the pod. How are you today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Good,
Blake,
Brian. Yeah. So when we reached out to you, I'm pretty sure that you probably went through and listened to all 50 some plus episodes of ours. So we know, hopefully you know where this first question is going to go, and it is this the first time you've ever been on a pod?
It is, to my knowledge. Yes, it is. So you guys can kick me off.
Are you excited or nervous?
Excited. Definitely excited.
We'll see how that goes halfway through.
Interview, so I can't pretend to be completely nervous. So go ahead.
Fair enough. Well, so maybe just kind of start us off. I know you played at Grand View, but beyond that, I don't know a ton about you. So where'd you grow up? Where'd you play? And kind of how'd you get to Des Moines? You're not from Des Moines, are you?
No, originally from Fort Dodge, Iowa. So
okay, Dodger.
I moved with my family quite young. So I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and we came, I think when I came into 3rd grade, if I'm recalling. That's a long time ago. I came to Des Moines in 3rd grade. We lived in West Des Moines, so I grew up there, went to Catholic school.
Okay, so you're a Dowling guy.
I'm a Dowling guy, yeah, go Maroons. But I did play like West Des Moines club soccer growing up. So I had the little orange and black and silver, like reversible jersey. It was pretty badass. I wish they could.
I still have mine somewhere.
Do you? The reversible?
Yeah. I'm a West Des Moines guy too. I went to Valley, but after you, obviously, were around.
Yeah, and actually I lived quite close to Valley. I lived, maybe like a half a mile or a mile from Valley compared to Dowling. So the idea of going to Dowling upset a lot of my neighborhood friends, if you can imagine, and some of my club teammates along the way. But it was inevitable.
On that note then, Brian, we always like talking to some of you older guys. Drop some names on us, who you played with.
Easy.
Who you played with, who coached you in your early days and club career as well.
Gosh, I am absolutely ashamed that I don't remember the club guys at West Des Moines. I do remember 2 guys named Adi and Nordine, and they were a couple of parents of kids on the team, but I think I only remember that because that just rolled off our tongues, Adi and Nordine. And so those are the only 2 like youth coaches I remember until I got to Dowling, which actually I started playing with the Dowling club at the time. I'm not positive, but I feel like the club setup at the time was mostly connected with the high schools. But one way or the other, I got involved with the Dowling club, and that's where I first met Blair Reed, and and just a lot of guys involved with the high school that definitely piqued my interest in the game and just kept stoking that. So yeah, that's definitely where the fire started, so to speak. Where you play from there?
So it was basically like Dowling High School and Dowling Club is what you're saying. So when you weren't playing high school soccer, it's not like you're playing for Iowa United or one of those clubs at that time. Yeah,
it was kind of a all-year deal, really, with the unique part being that it was kind of, for me, it was kind of like playing up. They saw something in me, they trusted me, and so it was kind of like playing up in a club setting, because I don't think they called it varsity or A team or whatever, but it was just kind of understood that there was the older group and then some of the younger groups, and I was lucky enough to be pulled into the older group.
What year did you graduate?
Teammates at
Sorry,
that
Ben.
Yeah, it's the same question basically. Like, what year were you there? And teammates.
So I graduated in '89, but the first teammates that I remember were Mike Quinn was a senior, Colin Dworak, Colin Murphy, Amadeo Rossi was a big influence on me. And then my classmates, like Phil Mann and Marco Rossi, Amadeo's brother, and Nick Calcino. And yeah, I feel bad. I'm probably leaving out a lot of guys that were pretty cool.
No, we've just talked about this, how interesting it is. I mean, because that's probably some of the first like real competitive soccer that was happening in the Des Moines area. We've joked about putting together like the history of Des Moines soccer, because it would just be interesting to see, all the different perspectives on it. So you were at Dowling. Did they have a state tournament at that point, or they not even started that process?
I don't think so. I just remember Metro being all that was really talked about, and it was pretty rare that I remember any high school having to do with going to play anybody from other parts of the state, and unless it was some kind of exhibition or something. I have no idea when an actual state tournament started up. So it was just purely about who was king of the Metro, I guess, is where that went.
Did you guys play there at the same right there on Dowling's campus? Where you ended up playing it. I mean, I remember okay.
So we actually had a pretty cool pitch. It was the only, to my recollection, I'm probably wrong, but to my recollection, it was the only like kind of soccer specific field, and so that made it pretty special for us, because there were definitely seasons where the pitch was absolutely perfect, and it was a good size pitch too. So we could do some different things on that pitch, and compared to like most people were obviously just playing inside of a track or a small, football stadium or something like that. And that's normal. But yeah, we felt pretty lucky that we all kind of put our hands in building a pitch from the ground up, and ended up being the first home pitch of the Menace too, which was kind of cool. So yeah, so I did all the training that I remember there, and games as well.
So you were really on the scene. So you, and then Grand View was kind of an up and coming program at the time. So I assume just, based on your relationship with Blair at Dowling, that was how you ended up there.
Yeah, eventually, because in actuality, I played my first season away at Columbia College in Columbia, Missouri, and that was just mainly about the idea of I just wanted to go somewhere. And I don't know if you guys remember, but at the time, Missouri was, the hotbed of soccer, and with Columbia being so close to St. Louis, there was definitely, it was an NAIA school at the time. I don't know what they are now, but there was definitely an intensity about that particular NAIA league that was in and around the St. Louis and Missouri area, including Kansas City too. And we were kind of right in the middle of that, as in the center of the state there. But yeah, I went down there, and the team was quite good. The program was decent. The head coach actually knew. He wasn't a soccer guy. He was actually a former NBA star named
What was his name?
Bob Godsey. And, he was like a total New Yorker, East Coast guy. And bless his heart, like he knew what, high level athletics was about, and performance and things like that. So I definitely gleaned some things from him, but I felt disappointed in terms of the approach to the game and what really I wanted to get out of it. So after that first semester, that first season, I ended up transferring back to Grand View. So, but it was a good experience for a lot of those reasons. The level of play I thought was pretty good. So I got that part out of it, but I just couldn't have imagined staying there for 4 years specifically, and rather than take a gamble on another school, it made sense for me to just come back to what I knew and some of the guys that I knew. So ended up back at Grand View.
So talk about being at Grand View. I mean, they've always always had a really good program as far as I can tell. You know, and then you were also playing for the Menace around that time, right? I mean, was that all happening at once?
No, actually, I'm older than that, so thanks for bringing it up that way.
Fair enough.
Very passive of you. No, but in actuality, I finished my last season, I want to say it was in 92, or maybe the season itself was actually in 91. I don't remember. But whatever that year, 92, there was nothing going on, and I had my heart set on still going to play somewhere. And you know, you didn't have MLS. The UCISA league was a fraction of the size that it ended up being. I think the year that the Menace got a franchise, I'm pretty sure it like doubled or tripled that particular year, and I think it was obviously in conjunction with the build-up with the World Cup at the time, and so that was pretty cool. But in that time, you know, I had my heart completely set on going to Europe and figuring that out, and I had a lot of European friends and connections that were helping me sort something out. So actually in 93, I went to Scotland and tried to play. So I joined a junior football club there called Hurlford United, that's based out of like real close to Kilmarnock. And so I played a season there. And when I was there was when I actually caught wind of the Menace being formed for the next year. So then I'm in touch with the ownership, all people that I knew, which was great, and just asked, hey, are you guys interested in me doing some recruitment as well? So what ended up happening was quite cool, where when I was there, I was feeling some players out because they knew that the league was only going to be like a summer league, you know, so it was actually only a commitment of a couple of months. And it was, you know, an opportunity and an experience for them equally to go to a different country and just enjoy that. And so I ended up bringing two players back with me, named Alan Stark and John Carmichael. And
I remember Alan Stark.
Yeah, and
he was a player.
Yeah. No, he was the business, and you know, it took some feeling out, which was really interesting because he played mostly as like an attacking midfielder on the team in Scotland, and that's how I, you know, build him in terms of how I thought that the Menace could use him. And in what it ended up turning into was he ended up being our leading goal scorer, and I don't remember what, you know, events led up to it, but we had a real dry spell at the beginning of the season, just finding our feet. And I mean, it was a brand new team, so I guess that's probably pretty normal. But then Alan ended up, you know, getting pushed up top. I don't know if that was Blair's call or if it was, you know, a communal, let's give this a go, but he ended up just lighting up the net and scoring some terrific goals and just turning our season around towards the end. So yeah. And unfortunately he was actually set to come back the second year, and he got stopped at customs and got turned around. So the Menace never got to actually see a full season of him up top. So that sucks. And
I do remember him now.
Yeah, tragically, then he actually got killed in a car accident. Actually, just walking on the side of the road, he got hit by a car. So, yeah. So I never got to speak with him again. Yeah, it was pretty tragic.
How were you viewed over in Scotland in the early '90s as an American coming over?
I basically wasn't viewed, if you can imagine that. No, it was good in that they, you know, it's no skin off their nose to let somebody, you know, jump into a session. And you can imagine, you know, they don't have like tryouts like are so popular here. You know, it's more about training and if, you know, if the majority of the team was picked, then there's always going to be, you know, an additional dozen probably players kind of circulating through the teams while they're still finalizing contracts and things like that. And I'll never forget my very first session there. And, you know, I wasn't, I thought I was in decent shape, but I wasn't in, you know, match fit shape. And it's such a robust physical, you know, community, never mind just the game. But the very first session, I go out there and I'm early, and I'm, you know, 20 minutes before, and I'm hitting some balls around with some guys, just trying to get my nerves out and pick up a few names or whatever that obviously would be handy in the session. And the moment then the gaffer shows up, they're like, right, put the balls up, and the whole session was just gut-wrenching running. And it took me about maybe 20 minutes, and I was throwing up behind the goal on the end. And I'm like, I'm just done for. I'm totally done for. And these guys are like running by me. And it was John Carmichael, who ended up playing with the Menace, who was the captain on that team. And he's like, come on, you gotta go. And I'm, you know, I probably had stuff coming down my face still. I dug back in, and I was kind of the trailer on this running, you know, for the rest of the time. And I'm like, all right, what did I get myself into? But, you know, it's like anything, you know, you were there, you had to adapt. And the good thing is that I was a good enough player that I found my way in. And, you know, I'm a tall guy, so that helped a lot. You know, I'm 6'3", and the two things
I remember you being quite good in the air.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two things that they loved about me: being good in the air, and I could slide tackle. And all right, so you already have a few features of that the Scottish League is going to require. So
I would guess that they like the slide tackle, but you probably just like to kick people in general.
Well, you know, to be honest, I always fancied myself as a little more sophisticated player than that. But you know, if it's about getting a job, you're going to find a way in. And if that was the way, you know, I think what was important was the noticing right away that it was pretty gruff and physical. It's like, well, you can either show them that you're prepared to do that, or you can wince in the corner and not participate in that, and you're just never going to find a place in it. And you know, even
so you're more of a center back at that point, or holding. I can't remember if you were like a midfielder or center back.
Yeah, most of my time was actually in the center midfield, so more like a defensive midfield.
Were you like sat deeper though, right?
Yeah, typically.
Okay, I do remember that.
Yeah.
How long does it actually take for you to get your feet there? I mean, I can't imagine it's one session or a week of sessions.
No, it was pretty brutal actually. But the good thing about the you know, going as early as I did was that they played a lot of friendly matches as well. And so, you know, the training was awful. There's just no other way to put it. It was awful. But it made you actually love the games, because it's like, oh, we get to actually do things with the ball. And so I got thrown into some friendly matches right away. So that was the way in, you know. So yeah, so it was definitely sink or swim, because, you know, at the time they only allowed 2 substitutions as well. So again, dating myself right there, you know.
That's
Did
crazy.
you throw the ball in and the goalie could pick it up?
Yeah, no, actually, I don't remember. That was definitely in college, you know. So it was brutal. The games were so brutally slow. But yeah, I mean, it was a great tactic. You get that one goal, and you just basically have this throw and catch game with your coach. So brutal. I think that rule changed in '93, though. So
That sounds right.
Right around
before the World
that
Cup.
time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
So what was that before we?
I feel like that was a dig. I feel like that was a dig on me, by the way.
No,
we keep going. There's little sly digs, like little pokes. And
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
Turning the
and
knife.
I fell right into it. Like, yeah, I'm excited. I remember that.
No, no, the only reason I said that is because for me, the World Cup, I was 10. So, I mean, you can be offended if you want, but that's just how old I was.
No.
And I remember it being like, it was super cool. It let your mind kind of wander like, oh man, that's maybe possible. And it, kind of lights the fire a little bit. And you've got some different, role models, but I would guess you said you were an 89 graduate of high school. And so you would have been in college and maybe just finishing up. So that must have been like, or not.
Hey, sorry, Ben, you kind of froze up there.
Finish your sentence or your question, Ben.
Yeah, sorry. It's asked sort of like how formative that would have been, that World Cup, and just it being here in the United States. I know the World Cups that I, was maybe a little more in tune for. So say like 2002 or 2006, to me, those were like huge events in my life. I'm just kind of curious what it was like being your age in 94 when the World Cup is did you go to any games?
I didn't, but that was down to the Menace starting up. I actually had the tickets. Holland was like my dream team at the time. That was in the days of Hulit and Van Basten and Rijkaard and some really cool players. And I actually had the Holland venue that was in Florida, I think Jacksonville or something like that. I had the group stage tickets to that one venue there. So I had tickets to 3 games, but just I sold them or gave them away to somebody because we ended up playing. So yeah. But yeah.
Did you end up coming across any of those guys in your career as a player? The only like top international that I only found out later that I came across was a French national team player named Sylvain Viltor, and he later I played had 2 seasons in France as well, and but I did play against a lot of the U.S. guys at different times, either with the Menace or with Connecticut Wolves when I played over there. So yeah, it was mostly U.S. internationals, and a lot of the guys. Well, those guys are pretty cool too. Like, who are you?
Yeah, no question. What was interesting though is it's kind of probably a similar story. Like, I played against those guys before they were, big U.S. internationals. The only big U.S. international that was already a fixture was I played an exhibition game against Frank Klopas when he was playing with. What was his team? It was a team in Chicago. I can't remember what the name of the team was.
He played for the Fire, right?
Yeah.
You're saying before that?
It was prior to that, yeah. And I went there with Al Driscoll and Nassim Olabi to play in an exhibition, and I was probably 18 at the time, and played in that game, and that was memorable for me because here I knew who Klopas was, and you can imagine, like, here I'm in getting to play in front of a crowd. There was probably 4,000 people at this stadium because he was so popular. That whole Chicago group was so popular. I wish I knew some of the other players on the team, because at the time everybody would say things like they're stacked and they're this and that, and so you knew it was going to be a great experience.
That's the crazy thing. Now all these young kids, they know who they're playing against, and they know the guys' reputation, their resume. You look back, oh, we played against that guy. Well, we didn't really know who he was at the time or whatnot. And these guys, these kids nowadays know, oh, they're on the the 19 national team, they've gone here, there, doing whatever.
They've like watched their videos, or they've, like seen their highlights, or, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's, so without social media, it's like, you talk about these amazing experiences. It's like, gosh, wouldn't that be cool if it was on Facebook?
Oh God. Yeah.
Go back and look at the pics.
Yeah. What I wouldn't give to have, videos of those. And I do have some old videos on like VHS tapes of games and things like that, from college and Menace. And, I mean, you talk about the World Cup having an influence. It's like all through growing up, when I really fell in love with soccer, I mean, the only games that you could see were on Sundays. They would have like one or two Spanish on the Spanish channel in Des Moines. They would have one or two games, and that was all you could see. And so, there was like
the Mexican League usually, or something. I feel
Mexican League, and then they would occasionally have like a real treat with like La Liga, or they'd have some just like Copa Libertadores final or something like that. And I still literally have some of those games on tape, because I didn't realize it at the time, but it was probably my best like video learning, opportunity for ultimately coaching and video analysis, because I would get like one or two games recorded and I would just watch them a million times, and if you got any of these good games with these really high level teams, like Real Madrid at the time, I know I have one of those games, and like Osasuna and Barcelona, and yeah, really, really remarkable. So I would watch these games, and the other thing that was really influential was the '88 European Championship, where Holland won, and that tournament to me was fantastic, because that was what really exposed me. And those games are all in Spanish. That I have recorded, but that Dutch team just absolutely blew me away, and they ended up winning it. So
that was the old Total Football, right?
I said KNVB, right?
Yeah. Rinus Michels was the coach at the time, and so just blockbuster stuff. Yeah. Still
I remember.
If you want to borrow the VHS, I've still got them.
Is that so? Okay, and maybe this is a really good transition, because I mean, for me, as a more of a, I guess, player, I would say deep down, than a coach, I could talk about the playing stuff all day and just sort of hear stories about where you played and who you played and what it was like. But obviously, your profession is as a coach, and you've had some real success. And Blake and I, before the pod, mentioned to you, or as we were talking, just saying that a lot of people that play, they eventually go on to be an accountant or a lawyer or whatever, and they don't stay in the game. And maybe if they do, then they sort of stay here and they do their thing, which is totally cool as well. But you obviously, pursued your
as
passion.
as an NCAA coach, we call those people boosters.
Okay, there you go.
They're very handy.
Well, and you that's fair. Well, and the thing is you can't if you want to be that level of a coach, you can't very well just stay put. You got to be willing to go.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that if you were serious about playing, that you're already recognizing that it's a transient business. And even at the lowest level, I think it's one of the first things that you get exposed to is this idea of travel, and even at a very young age, if it's traveling across town, I mean, it seemed like going to the South Side for a game was like an adventure, and at some point, obviously, that keeps expanding to other towns close by, and then other states and cities across those states. And maybe you don't realize it, but you're developing some kind of affinity for how transient, the trade is. And if you continue that then as a player, and whether it's, going to other parts of the country or overseas, obviously you have to embrace that. that part of it. And then certainly with coaching, it's just, that's a big piece of the continuation of it. And if you had, I think it can be really helpful if you had an opportunity to go to different parts of the country, because you'll see just how differently people live, and that translates to the game as well, different styles of the game and different interpretations. And yeah, you need that. You definitely need that.
So
we talk
about
about that sometimes. Just sorry, Blake.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say we talk about that sometimes, how a lot of our central Iowa or Iowa soccer is sort of colored with those glasses of just like, this is where we live, and this is how it's played. And then, like I played on the East Coast a little bit. We've Blake and I growing up traveled we traveled out west. You go down south to Texas. We've been down in the Florida area, and or like south in the Carolinas, and the game changes dramatically all across the country with the way it's played and where it's played, and all that kind of stuff, who's playing it. So,
yeah, of course.
I assume that's kind of informed your coaching style over the years. And I mean, now you've been somewhere pretty permanently, at least for a while. You've got a nice tenure there. What's it like? Where does that put you? What kind of style are you implementing in your game, and how's that kind of formed?
Man, I think that one of the ways that going off to college and then even coming back to Grandview is quite a melting pot. There was a lot of international guys at the time. I think Blair still gets quite a few internationals, but that has a big influence as well. It's like, my roommate for at least a couple of years was Namibian, and we had a Brazilian and Ecuadorian and Mexican guys and other European guys. And I don't know, I was always very curious about those things, and everybody loves to talk about the game, so it's like everybody has loads of opinions and variables that they bring up individually, whether it's simply through playing or if it's in the discussions off the field as well. And I found all those things to be quite influential, and it definitely piqued my interest in going away as well. And but even before that, like in high school, my good friends, the Rossi family, they're first generation Italian Americans, and they were so in tune with what was going on in Serie A and the passion and excitement about teams, and so that permeated my high school circle, and so we would discuss those teams like in detail, and we would bring home magazines that had they were just insane in the media there about the detail that they would put into match reports and upcoming games and team previews and things like that. And they would have all these magazines, and even though I didn't understand any of the Italian, it's like you're just absorbing this stuff, just like if you're watching a game. When you see the layout graphically in a magazine, I remember those things vividly, and those things all contributed to just piquing my interest about what different styles could be, and how different teams developed identities, their own identity, and whether that was specifically down to the region of the country that a team might be, or the best example at the time period that I'm talking about was the Dutch trio that I was talking about, Hulit, Van Basten, Rijkaard. They all got picked up by AC Milan. So now they're this fixture in AC Milan with this Dutch contingent, but then you have Inter Milan that was, they share the same stadium at San Siro. And Inter Milan actually picked up a German trio with Mateus and Breme and Klinsmann. And so like these things were so exciting for us to like explore and consider and watch, how they played out, and whether one team would play more exciting or cynical or whatever. And at the time, there was a really special coach at AC Milan called Arrigo Sacchi. And
we know we should all know who he is. He's had a resurgence recently.
Okay, yeah, because so many people have the same haircut. I think he's definitely he's like an icon. But no, just like amazing ideas. And these were things that, like, it wasn't probably normal, as far as I know, it probably wasn't normal for high school kids in Iowa to be spending their nights just sitting around talking about this stuff, you know.
Now, have you seen Arrigo Sacchi's like 4-4-2 video on like how you play it perfectly?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
That was with the Italian national team at
yeah.
there.
That we watched that in college, and that was like our whole. Oh my God! I mean,
that was the game model then.
Yep. And
Right.
it's fascinating though. I mean, when it's impossible, like if you do it right, good luck against that.
Absolutely. And they had the tools and the players, and Franco Baresi, arguably the best defender of all time, and perfect, you know, the perfect ambassador for Sacchi's style. And
so now I'm so curious. You've talked about Sacchi. You've talked about you know, the total football of the Dutch. I'm so curious.
Yeah.
Like, what do you play at Fresno State?
We try our best to play an attacking style and a high pressing style, and we, you know, I've had games where I, you know, experimented with based on the capabilities of my players, experimented with a little bit more cynical style and sitting deeper and you know, just trying not to get scored on as a first target, right? And there was one game that I remember early in my career as a head coach where we did that and we lost 1-0, and I just my immediate reflections were just like I felt like I sold my soul to just shit, you know. And
so you didn't like it?
if I can say that on here.
Yeah, we've had worse as well. So
okay. because the thing is that we still lost the game, and the whole point was to not lose the game, and we still lost the game, and that was just a really easy way for it to dawn on me that, you know what, if I'm gonna watch all these games, because you have limited control once the game starts, you know, you're training, you should have some control, but once the game starts, you have limited control. So if I'm just going to sit there and just watch it purely as somebody who loves the game, I don't want to watch that. So why on earth as a coach should I try and create that and just live that, you know? And obviously,
okay, so I want to ask though then, so we have, remember Blake, when we spoke with the Baylor coach?
that's what I know. Yeah, that's a great. I love this question, Meg.
Go for it.
Go ahead. Well, go ahead.
Do you know the Baylor coach?
I don't know him personally, but I know about their style and their you know, resurgence, because there was a time when I was at Texas Tech as an assistant that we played Baylor regularly. So yeah. They definitely push themselves into a completely different hierarchy, I guess.
Yeah, so I think that begs the question of when you go up against, I don't know exactly who you guys play, but I'm assuming, I mean, do you guys play non-conference games against the Stanfords, the UCLAs, or when you go up against somebody of that quality and caliber, what is the approach you guys take? Do you take, hey, the development, like let's play the pretty style, or
right?
Let's get a
Which you just reminded me actually that we actually had a spring game scheduled against Stanford that was supposed to happen 2 days ago, but we let them off the hook with quarantine. No, I think that you have to be realistic, you know, but that doesn't mean that you can't try to find a way in a game where you're outmatched and outgunned to still be true to your identity. And maybe it's not going to be a final result, but it can definitely be victories throughout the match, where people start to see stuff work or see why things don't work. And as long as you're treating it as a learning opportunity, then I don't think anybody's, completely put off by it, That said, the last time that we actually played them in a regular season setting was we played against Stanford in an exhibition in 2018, so 2 seasons ago. And with that being our exhibition and them already being, one of the most potent attacking teams in women's soccer, right? You know what you're going to get. So our number one objective was to make sure that we used that as an opportunity to really learn how to defend in a low block. Not with the point being, and this is what we were very careful about expressing, that it wasn't about the point being that we want to play in a low block and that's going to be our identity. The point was that there's going to be, in any given game, no matter if we are a pressing team and we play, 80 minutes in our opponent's half, in that other 10 minutes, we have to be prepared. We have to have that in our toolbox at some point to call on to be really good in a low block when you need it. And so that was our number one target, and that's how we treated it. So our training leading up to that, which still left us with a full week before we played a game that would count. Our training leading up to that was 75% about the defending game, and then transitions when we would win the ball, because I don't care who you play, you're going to win the ball at some point, especially if you're organized.
I think I like that approach. I think it seemed to me very similar to how I was coached in college, at least, was that we were going to try and learn as many different styles, essentially, because there's a moment for them all at some point.
Yeah. And I think you would have to be careful about, you want to be careful about just dabbling in everything, with no like main direction, because then you're opening yourself up probably to confusion at some point. But I think that if you approach it in such a way that you're sticking to your main objectives and your main identity, 2 things are going to happen. You're going to see opportunities in the games where you're going to learn lessons, and then you might have to go back and address something that is a slight deviation from your main target, but not an entirely different, system or style or whatever, right? But equally, you're constantly exploring and expressing what the capabilities of your players are, and sometimes that's about finding the right players for the right positions. And sometimes that lends itself into you picking a style and an identity, but equally it lends itself to the players showing up with different characteristics that might allow you to, within a game, and despite the idea of what your main identity is, having certain players be able to lift you a certain way or pull something out of their hat in a certain instance. So you're not completely giving over to changing your style, but you're recognizing that the individuals have something to say about influencing the game. And I think that that's a healthier way to go about it, so that you don't create too much confusion by just dabbling in 5 different formations and playing medium this game, high this game, middle block next game, playing purely counterattacking or trying to play a pressing game, so it's too confusing. I've found for the players, if you don't make sure that you start in a pretty distinct identity, and then allow them to develop it and maybe create little deviations from it.
So I don't know, a big thing here in Iowa, which I'll be interested if you see it out there in California in the youth game, is everybody wants to develop a player, and not necessarily hit on, hey, we need to learn how to win a game. Like, hey, we may not play, like, it kind of goes into this a little bit. This may not be our identity this game, but if we need to get a result, it seems like a lot of kids around here don't know how to figure out a way to win or get a result.
No idea.
So and I'm just interested to kind of see what you see out there, because they got not anymore the DA, but the ECNL and some of these more reputable leagues where results, I think, matter. Just talk a little bit about, do you see that in the players you recruit, that they know how to win? And sometimes it may not be pretty, but they know how to adjust to that.
I think, of course, you're looking for that. I mean, you're looking, and it rears itself in many ways, like anything from, really finesseful and highly skillful technique to some of the robust stuff that we were talking about early, where somebody's just prepared to smash somebody to win a ball, and they don't shirk in that little, action in the game. But I think, to your question, I'm not sure that it's different here to there, because,
or from where you're recruiting as well.
Yeah, but I think when you're talking about on the club level, you're speaking to somebody's sales pitch ultimately, about how they think they can, get people to literally buy into their club, and so that's what they're careful about. I'm fascinated by the fact that I've never seen, to my knowledge, I've never seen somebody explicitly just combine the two, and I've never really understood why they seem to be broached as two different things. It's like, isn't player development like, and if you're talking about like somebody's style, and it's like, okay, so club Barcelona wannabe is all about passing and technique and stuff, so that's how we're going to develop your players, right? And then this club over here is about, we have X amount of state cups to our name, so that's how we get it done. Now, just don't ask any questions about how we get it done, right? And you get this weird gravitation from the parents based on the sales pitch of which way they think it's best to go. But I just envisioned that if I was going to set up a club and a mission statement, I would combine the two by saying, we're gonna try and develop techniques that make people technicians and comfortable on the ball, and a good tactical understanding specifically to win. Boom.
Keep preaching.
I think
there it is right there.
Yeah, it's so easy. And it's the same thing you do if you were going to start a business or some sort of thing like that. You'd say, okay, well, I want to teach people the way to be successful in the system that I'm looking for. And we want to make some money if it's a business, so you want to win some games, you're going to do it by teaching people the right way to do it.
Yeah. And if you believe that playing direct and having fast players in a style is your way to win games, I've seen it. So it's like, but isn't there still development in that? Don't you still have to teach ball striking and reception and timing of runs and beating an offside line and finishing?
There's still a lot in that.
Yeah, receiving the ball, yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like, I think this coincides with your question about the Baylor coach and what my opinions are. And it's like yeah, I want to win, but I do believe that the way we try to play with the ability to keep the ball and press in our opponent's half, I do believe for us that's the best way to do it. And unfortunately, I've been proven wrong in certain games, and I've been proven right in certain games. And it's like that. I have to be okay with that.
For sure. So just talking about like the winning mentality and all that stuff, I've been sucked into the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance. I can't imagine I don't think Blake has that out in the country where he lives, but
you got to have faster internet than I do, Ben.
Okay.
but maybe you've been watching that. And
I can't say that I have, but go on.
Okay.
Well, this will be a good question then, Ben.
It's going to be a great question. No, but it's like for me growing up, I did watch, you talked a lot about the soccer you watch. I watched a lot of basketball and, Michael Jordan and his sort of like just competitiveness. Like I was just sort of drawn to that. And that's, this whole documentary, of course, is just going to, kind of like pump all those things up. I guess I was just kind of curious if that had resonated with you at all, or, but it's clearly not going to. But how do you? We've talked about how do you coach players to, to kind of pick up those sort of innate things that they're not as coachable, just like intensity. Not work ethic, but just work rate, like constant work rate. And, all those things that they're just harder to coach. You can't just say like, hey, I need you to go run fast, run hard. How do you set up your training to make it more competitive and get the most out of your players to, kind of push themselves?
For us, step one of that is kind of a no-brainer, and that's recruiting, right? And it's like you do your due diligence to see if you've got these types of players, that they already have some of those traits. You want as many of those types of traits as possible, and it's very difficult to find the complete player. And, I again, being realistic about our place as a mid-major in the women's Division I soccer continuum or all women's soccer continuum, being realistic, we aren't going to find that complete player. So there's definitely some personnel that's probably going to be lower or lacking on the leadership and the bite, but might be just an unbelievable technician. And so we do have to figure out ways to get that. And then there's vice versa, where you might have somebody that you can count on to just run through a wall, but you gotta be working on not just the left foot, but the right foot as well, and getting them caught up.
How are you recruiting these days then? Let's make that a twofold question. It's like, how do you generally recruit? And then how has that been affected by current circumstances?
The second part of that's pretty easy. It's just completely on hold. Yeah. And obviously, things like video, but we would have been using video before anyway. And then comparing that to what we see in live evaluations. But yeah, it's so vitally important to get live evaluations, but it's equally important to, speak to the coaches, in some cases, speak with the parents, speak with teammates, if you know them, or former club members. Sometimes we recruit, people from the same high school or the same club that maybe I've got one of those already in my team. And so, you're just looking for information because you're looking for all these bonus qualities, but you're also looking for red flags. It's like, and I can't, as any recruiter, it's like in any moment, one might be, more evident to you than the other, which might make you really want to play or really not want to go there. And, but, I think it's about defining qualities. Recruiting is about defining qualities. And if you see just winner in somebody, then what a great starting point, because that's the kid that you're going to be able to work with on the technical things and is going to elevate your sessions. But, it at some point, once, obviously that recruiting step is done and you have your team convene, it's really then about the coach preparing sessions that elicit exactly those behaviors and demand those behaviors. And I think it's also about being just brutally honest with the players. And that too starts in the recruitment process. It's like, I have one thing that I say to every recruit and her parents, and I look them in the eye when I say it. I say the objective isn't to play for Fresno State. The objective is to win for Fresno State. So I don't know how I can be more clear about that as a starting point. And then I just remind them, that I'm not interested in wasting my time. I'm not interested in wasting my staff's time, and I'm not interested in wasting other people's time. If they're there and we're recruiting them, then the expectation is that we should be having that talk about, we think you can help, but you got to be prepared to put the team winning above everything else, because it's just not recreational soccer anymore, so
that's going to be breaking news out there on the West Coast. He just sold his recruiting pitch.
No, I don't think Stanford needs to listen to my recruiting pitch, but I mean,
I like that though. It's honest. I mean, that as a recruit and a parent, that's what, to me, that's what you want.
But it's completely ripped off too, by the way. So it's just me passing it. It's me kicking it forward.
Hey,
boom. It was totally ripped off from Jose Mourinho, by the way. So, but that's the
highest form of flattery.
Yeah.
There you go.
So one quick question to kind of go way back, because we talked about this and we didn't really get into it. Your Iowa United coaching days. We played it. Me and Ben both played at Iowa United, and it'd be interesting.
I remember you guys. So
okay. Well, that's, I mean, we were like, we don't know if he knows who we literally have no clue if he knows who we are or not. We know who he is, or remember him at least. And like, he coached us, but like, we were just two kids, and this was way back. I mean, this was like we were talking earlier, early 90s and whatnot.
Yeah.
I honestly remember you guys, and more specifically, so Al Driscoll was like, he was like an encyclopedia of the young players, and obviously was significantly dedicated to the club and the younger age groups. And he would always be like, that guy's a bad dad. That guy's a bad dad. And so he would point out some of the guys. So I knew who the little up and comers were.
I almost referred to this back when you said you played in an exhibition game with Al Driscoll. I think the last exhibition game Al Driscoll played in, he got sent off with a Menace alumni.
Oh,
really?
It was beautiful.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you know this story, but Ben, you got to share the story.
I'll have to tell it. Yeah,
I wasn't saying really like I couldn't believe that. I was saying really like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, weird, right?
No, so
yeah.
So I got they did the old Menace alumni against the current Menace team, and I couldn't. Maybe it was like 2013 or something like that, 14.
Okay.
And so they brought Lori Calloway back to coach the squad, and basically Al started, and it was kind of one of those where all like, geez, man, he's definitely the oldest person here. These guys are still pretty fit. And so, we were just sitting I was loving it on the bench, just hanging out, and thought I was going to get to kick back. And old Driscoll gets sent off in the 13th minute of the game. I mean, like early, somebody runs past me, just brings him down. And they felt so bad for us that we were going to have to play a man down. I had to sub on. I am not ready to play at all. And I get subbed on for Al to play center back. And I was just like,
so what age were you at the time?
Oh, I would have been, just shy of 30 probably.
Okay.
Maybe 30.
So you had graduated to the I don't warm up anymore. Is that
yeah, and I was also I've gone through different versions of fitness, and that was in one of my poorer versions.
Okay.
I was coming off a knee injury and whatever.
That was one of your valleys, not your peaks.
Yeah, we don't even talk about those.
It happens.
So selfishly, Ben, let me jump in here. Do you do you have anything else to add to that, Ben?
No.
Okay. So you got a bunch of kids, 5, correct?
I do.
Okay.
That's a whole lot.
Do they, one, do they play soccer? 2, if any, I'm assuming at least 1 or 2 do. How do you coach them? Give me, because I've got a 5-year-old, almost 6, like always interested to pick people's brains, and our listeners may want to know, like, what's it like?
I want to know too, just for pure comedy's sake.
No, all my kids have played. Like the two youngest ones still just kick around in the yard and whatever. But my oldest son he just finished a high school season. They play in the winter here. My daughter actually didn't play for the first time this year, but she had been playing some club in high school up to that point. My middle son is just playing school ball. And then the little ones just purely kick around, and we'll probably get them in a little league. But our opinion is very much of the idea of letting the kids, experiment with as many different sports as they want until they find, something that they're really passionate about. And the sport that has kind of taken over for the oldest ones has been water polo, which is
really
popular out here.
Oh, I'd drown. That's awful.
Oh my God, me too.
When I watch, I get anxiety, but I'm like, they're amazing. It's tough. It's tough
So
stuff.
have you ever coached any of them?
Only
And why? And then why? Why or why not? So go ahead.
Only in spells. Like I find it. Well, it would be fair to say that time is difficult, and so committing to a specific team has always been difficult with committing to the Division I program. But part two of that is wanting to enjoy when I go to the games, and so trying not to be completely invested in the development and the organizational component. But where I have dabbled with all of them is when they ask me certain things and we watch the game together, and they come to our games, which is awesome. And, and we discuss those things. And when I did the PDL team, my two older sons would actually come on the road sometime. My oldest one would come on the road, but the youngest ones would come and be in the locker room and really see that. And then my daughter has actually traveled with the college team to a couple of different spring games and things like that, and just sat on the bench with us. And so, they're around it so much that what was really important to me was to not have my passion and my vocation become their vocation. It's like they have to discover that themselves, and that's how we've treated it. So, but they're quite good. I mean, if they tripped into reigniting the passion for it, there's no doubt in my mind that they could be successful.
You could save some scholarships there if your daughters are good enough to make it.
Yeah, I only have one daughter. So
Okay.
I only have one daughter, so yeah, that would be. But the other ones, again, it's like that's me understanding kind of this business. It's like even with the college and the recruitment and things like that. And my oldest son is specifically looking at playing water polo in college, and it's good for me to help him understand the recruiting process, even though it's a completely different sport. And that was something that was really important to me, was for, if they want to do that they explore that, and they have to, put their video together, and they have to put their CV together, and they have to, check with their references and make the calls and put in the emails and stuff like that. It's not anybody else's job. It's not anybody else's journey. It's your own journey. And so obviously I would say that to any kids, never mind just my own, so that's really important to me, and that they're the ones that have the conversations with the coaches and figure out what they want to do, because at some point, if they don't want to do it, they shouldn't, but if they do,
totally.
they should go in punching.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like a really good place to sort of wrap it up, because I think it ties in the message that we always want to get to the sort of, the youth soccer, high school soccer people. But I think the parents out there would maybe they could use that advice that you provided. So maybe we'll just make sure that's the last thing they hear.
Well, I'm always careful about that because I try to be careful about, not telling somebody that there's a right way or a wrong way. It's like, if when I see parents have, really good relationships with their kids, I mean, at least that's what it appears like, that they are coaching. It's cool as hell. It's really special. I think that for me personally, it's about knowing myself and knowing my own intensity level and not wanting to be the one that gets them over, to that point, or expects to push them into that point of really wanting to do something. And if I can leave that to, another expert in whatever sport they end up, getting after, or whatever job they end up getting after, that in a way is more rewarding to me, to not feel like I had to be the navigator and never mind the motivator, so I just try to motivate by doing my own work as well as I can. And I think they've had a chance to see that, so I think that's important. And so I don't want to be everybody's parent, or the coach to all the parents either. And, but it's got to be about knowing yourself, knowing your kid, and just trying to be realistic. I think you got to do your homework to be realistic.
I mean, it just sounds so well adjusted. It's a good place to be from, I think. So is Fresno State going to come play the Drake Bulldogs anytime soon?
We did. We came out there.
Wait, do we miss this?
No, I saw that. There was a big deal actually in the media. Like Brian Zwaschka coming back home to. I just saw it when I looked you up. I saw it was a big deal.
I want to say it was in like 2014 or 15. It was a while ago. And we went out there and we played University of Iowa up there, and then we came back and we played Drake at County, and it was not a good weekend for us, put it that way.
That must have been kind of a cool trip, though. I've just been hammering you, huh?
I tell you what, it was, for me personally, it was an amazing trip, because when I left, I was involved in some of the downtown stuff, and I had been gone for, I think, like 10 or 12 years.
Weren't you one of the original owners of the Lift?
Yeah,
which is where Abadeo comes in.
And the Muse, yeah.
And the Muse.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun, It's like, I
might have drank an underage beer there once.
Oh, we
not on my watch.
Ben, we definitely did. 2-for-1 martini nights at the Lift way back in 2005 or whatever.
That was a whole other life, but but no. So when I went back with the team and we stayed at that Embassy Suites downtown there, and got to walk around, and I was just blown away. I was so proud of. The fact that the community and the small business owners and everything like that did what they said they were going to do. And, I think it took some of the small guys like us to, start up some of the, smaller businesses and get people down there, doing their thing. And it just kept growing. So when I went back, I was blown away. It really had become special down there. So, yeah, that was the whole idea. So
that's awesome. Must have been really cool. Well, thanks for your time today. We don't want to take your whole evening away. I'm sure you got to get back to the kids and everything.
He wants to keep going.
Please do look us up if you come back to town again for another game. It'd be fun to get together again.
Indeed, once all this stuff gets settled and we get to book travel and add some non-conference flights, of course I'd love to get back out that way. But no, and for you guys, keep going. This is pretty neat that you guys are a voice and giving a voice to the coaches, because hopefully it can have an influence on coaches, and that's one of my targets here. Like we try to do, coaching education for local coaches and make it free and do this type of stuff so that we can purely talk about, the same problems that everybody has, in developing teams and whether that's down to the nitty gritty of a single session or if it's planning a whole season. There's just so much information to share and steal and make your own, that I think stuff like this is really important. So kudos to you guys.
Awesome.
Well,
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah. Well, enjoy, stay safe, and hopefully good luck in the fall.
Yeah. Likewise. We'll get after it.
Cheers. All right, Blake, that was super fun. I really enjoyed that. A little blast from our past. Last time we were, that must have been like literally the last time we would have seen or talked to Brian Zwaschka was in the 90s, or Big Z, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we talked a little bit about the Dowling Catholic High School. Remember that field? Like he talked about how pristine the pitch was. I mean, I remember going there with the bleachers, like just a little. I mean, it had to hold 100 people, and everybody was lined up on the sideline.
It was definitely more. It was more people than that, but you could literally sit on the sideline or like stand on the sideline and watch the game. You're that close. It was awesome. Yeah. I also remember playing there in high school, and it was like the worst field in the world.
Ooh, I don't remember playing there in high school.
Ooh, yeah. When I was like maybe freshman, sophomore, we played there, and that field was at the time. He mentioned it being the right, like full size, like the right size. Back in comparison with like a football field, it was much bigger, but like it wasn't that much bigger. It was pretty tight little pitch.
Yeah, well, nowadays, right? They have the turf field over there, kind of around the track. On the east side, I think, of the high school, which is, I remember we went there last year, I think, and it was super cool. Like the hill, super cool, the view to watch the games.
It's still a great little spot, but different
field though.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, all right.
And like everything back there is decent. It's a beautiful little area. We've gone off on a tangent. Regardless,
they got the private school money, man.
Yeah, fair enough. So. Anyway, super fun to chat with Brian. He was super generous with his time. Hopefully he'll share it all on his social media and stuff, and we'll get a lot of views and listens and all that fun stuff.
Speaking of, Ben, that's a great little segue to, if our listeners want to find us,
I just set them up. You knocked them down, Steve.
You did. Facebook at Kick It Forward IA. Twitter, kick_forward. Instagram, kick.it.forward. And then our one and only TikTok video, which I still die laughing.
Why? We need to get some more content on there.
We do. But that is at kick.it.forward. And finally, our YouTube channel, which, again, you are prevalent of our, I think we have 3 or 4 videos. You feature quite nicely in our state fair juggling video, which I love. Again, I saw it again today. I love it. That third touch welcomes a tackle.
Oh, I'm literally gonna I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna put together the sweetest juggling video of all time.
I'm waiting, Ben. We'll give it to our social media.
Put it on TikTok.
We can put it on the TikTok. We'll talk to our social media guy. Get it up on all the platforms.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way, Blake. If you see all these things where people say if we get like 100 likes or 1,000 likes or whatever it is, I'll do the video. Like I will definitely. Okay, so not only would I do like a sweet juggling video, I would probably do one of those silly ass dance videos if we got a certain amount of likes. But what's our number, Siebes? This is by the way, this is off the cuff.
It is.
So if anybody's even listening to the end of the episode,
which they don't listen to the end of the episode.
No, they don't listen to the end. That's why. Okay. Also, can I tell you a secret? The outro song is me playing the guitar. No one has even asked about that. No, because nobody's gotten that.
Nobody
far.
listens to it. Yeah, they just skip the intro and the outro.
Yeah, it's incredible.
All right. Well, 15 impressions.
What? No.
I know,
No,
because
stop.
because our last tweet, we're approaching 10,000. So
15 impressions is
I know.
none.
Correct.
That's
why.
no.
That's
Like,
why. That's why.
I'm not. That's not the way this goes. No, I want to see some actual action here.
Well,
so if we get if we get look, come on, see Bruce. Let's get how many retweets or shares total does it require
for you to do a proper juggling video?
Proper juggling video.
How many takes?
Yeah. That's the TikTok videographer's option.
So no more than 2 takes. If we can get 50 likes, shares across all our platforms.
Total?
Yeah, because again, we're at we're at the end.
For what though? Okay, we need it. We got to find a way to quantify this, Siebes. How are we gonna do it? We need to get somebody in our DMs. We need
5 DMs.
10 direct messages.
Okay,
5
to 10.
10 DMs.
Through all our platforms.
If 10 DMs happen, then we'll put it out there and we'll see what the people say.
All right.
Then we have to get likes.
Okay.
10 DMs plus the likes. All right.
Okay.
Big negotiation here on the pod.
Come on,
all
listeners.
Right. Yeah, I don't think they're listening anymore.
I know.
Enjoying my guitar playing.
Well,
now, guys.
But thanks, Z.
Yeah, no, just kidding. Yeah, thank you, Brian Zwaschka. He's probably not listening anymore. Who else probably is not listening anymore? I guarantee you Central City Liquors isn't listening anymore. Michael Keener, attorney at law, not listening. Billy Scott listening? Maybe.
Bye-bye.